And that's it. I think we are live. I'm going to check.
It says live.
I'm going to check. Well, it says live on here. I'm going to check.
It says live on mine.
I actually see people. Okay. That's the wrong one. That's not. Okay, video.
Sure, I don't have it up on any of mine. Oh, I do. Sorry.
Okay, we really are live. This is awesome. So, welcome to Book Chat with Carrie, Nichols, and myself.
We're live. Oh. Let me make sure I don't have any of mine on. No.
Sorry, I had it playing. I always have it muted, but I didn't mute it. So sorry for those double words, guys. And we are here with three very special guests. I'm super excited to have them. We have Jadesola James, Denise Wheatley, and Darby Baham. I'm going to say it right because it's important. Baham. Okay, see. Oh, sorry about that. And I'm going
Darby.
Didn't I say Darby?
Yeah. Darby, yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, guys, this is so fun. We're live, and it's okay. And I'll be watching for chat.
Okay.
And but before that, okay, now I've got to get that playing. Okay, then I would like, if y'all wouldn't mind, to introduce yourselves and kind of let us know a little bit about your writing journey, what you're doing now, anything you want to. So we'll start with Jadesola. Is that okay?
Sounds good. Thank you, Lucy and Carrie, for having us here today. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Like Lucy said, my name is Jadesola James. I am a debut author for Harlequin Presents, as well as Harlequin's Carina Press. I've been writing for about 10 years, but I only attempted my hand at romance a couple of years ago, just kind of by accident, but I'm thrilled it worked out. And I'm so
we are too.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Denise, will you go ahead and share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Wheatley, and I write for Harlequin Intrigue. So I released my first novel with them in June, Cold Case True Crime. Thank you. I've got my next one. Thank you. I've got my next one coming up in December. It's called Bayou Christmas Disappearance. And I just finished up my third book for them, turned it into the editor this week. It's called The Heart-Shaped Murders. Yeah, this one is about a serial killer. So it's scary. It's the first book in a series, so it should be exciting. And so I started writing. My first book came out in 2004 with Simon & Schuster. So I published my first book when I was about 5 years old. Because I'm young. Don't let that year fool you. I'm young. So 2004, first book. I've been writing ever since. I've done a lot of ghostwriting in between. I've written for Thule Publishing as well. So right now I'm so excited to be a part of the Harlequin family. It's something I've been wanting to do for years. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here chatting with you ladies.
Glad to have you.
Okay, Darby, will you take a minute and tell us a little bit about you and your journey and what's coming up?
Sure. Thanks again, everyone for having us here. I am a debut author with Harlequin Special Edition. And so my very first published book is coming out February 2022 called The Shoe Diaries. Just so you know, I call myself slightly a shoe addict. So I think that goes with but no judgment. We're not judging.
No, it's not judgment, it's expertise. That is expertise.
Exactly.
Yes, write what you know. Right?
Very true. And like Denise, I am actually delivering the second book to my editor this week. So The Shoe Diaries is the first of a series of books that's going to follow a group of dynamic, tight-knit friends. And you get to see them, find and sustain love and go through like career changes, deal with different insecurities, all the stuff that you do in your 20s and 30s. So, hoping that everyone loves that. I know I can relate to it and, looking forward to other people doing so as well.
It's funny, I'm in my 50s, but I am so into friendship books right now. Love them. I get super excited when there's that really close, like sibling or friendship relationship. Yeah. So,
and I have both, so I can pull from close sisters and a brother, and then close, friends who
Oh,
are
I
like
love
sisters.
that.
All of my really close friends are like my sisters. So,
I
you know,
love
you
that.
pull from, like you said, Carrie, pull from what you know.
That's right. I'm going to share a couple of comments that have come up. Sherry Allen says, "Hey, Darby," with lots of hearts. And Leslie Jones says, "Hi, ladies. Hi back." You guys. And if you're watching, do make comments. I'll read out any of the questions that are posted, but I'll also read out the comments because the way we do this, nobody can actually see the comments except for me because I have 2 screens up. It's just technology. It's not my friend, but there you go.
Mine neither.
Yeah.
So I will say that I had the absolute pleasure of reading both Jadesola's first book for Carina Press and Denise's first book for Intrigue, and I enjoyed both of them very much. And Jadesola, I bought your book as a first I bought it on my Kindle, and then I'm like, oh, you know, I'm having migraines, so I bought it as a audiobook. So I half audioed it and half read it. Never done that before. It was a very interesting experience. But yeah, no, both were just like really good, and there were just different things. Like, so I guess I'm going to start off. I'm just going to throw some things out about Jadesola's book and then Denise's book because that's kind of book chat. Carrie and I read the books. We talk about what we saw in like. Jadesola, I could just die for your characters. Like they're so great, and I don't want to give anything away, but let me tell you, if you're reading this book, it doesn't turn out the way you expect. Of course, it's a happy ending, but like she takes it and she doesn't just do that. Oh, I just don't want to say it because I don't want to like say what happened.
Don't give anything away.
It's like it's not your typical this is what happens in romance kind of thing. Like, anyway, it was really a lot of fun. I love the whole train thing, and that just so worked for me because I love Agatha Christie. I've watched every single movie remake of the Orient Express, as well as having read the book about a dozen times. So I just love that. And one of my dreams, like, you know, your bucket list is to go on the Orient Express over in Europe. And someday that's going to happen, like post-COVID and all this stuff. But it's going to happen. So it was awesome. I didn't know, Carrie, if you had some things you wanted to say about Jadesola's book. I didn't know if you got a chance to read it or not.
I haven't had a chance to finish it, so don't. Yeah.
It's all good. And then Denise's book is like your murder mystery, right? It's like, oh my gosh, that was so fun. And I had said online that if my granddaughter wants me to watch a movie, she'll say, but Grandma, she's sassy. And they all know that's like my key thing. If I know that the heroine is sassy, I will watch the movie. And when I was reading this, gosh, she's so sassy. She is sassy and fun. And and I love that you did a really great job. You intertwined the romance with the mystery in a really believable way. One of the things that drives me kind of crazy with a mystery is when they all of a sudden stop to like bang and death at the door.
There's a dead man behind us, but for the time being,
how romantic is that?
No, don't do that to me. But I put that book down with such a happy feeling in my heart, which I did the same with Jadesola. That's kind of my like tick of, was this a great book? Did I put it down feeling really good? And I did. I believed in the romance. I believed in where you went. And I loved it. Yeah.
Although a couple times with the heroine, I gotta say, I was like, "Ooh, don't do that! You know,
she was terrible." My editor was like, "Girl, listen, she cannot go this far. You do not want your heroine in jail." And I'm like, "Look, let me have this." So we had to find a happy medium. I did give.
I was still, of course, my age is showing where
No. Like, she had me nervous too because I'm like, "Why are you going in there? Why are you know?"
Don't do that.
But she's just impetuous, and she's got that sassy, impetuous nature that, and a different heroine would do something different, like, you know. But that's the thing, is that we write characters as they are, and sometimes our characters take us a different place. It sounds to me, Denise, like your character led that book. Like
I believe it, knowing. I was curious. Did you get the idea from? I mean, where did the idea come from? Because I know there are a lot of these days true crime blogs and things like that. You know, is that where that came from?
It started with this new obsession I've developed with YouTube. All of these YouTube vloggers who vlog true crime, I cannot tear myself away from it. And a lot of them are women, and they have this thing, either it's about coffee and crime or makeup and crime. They'll put on their makeup and talk about these crime cases, and I can't get enough of it. I know it's ridiculous, but I love it. So I think that's where the initial idea came.
Oh, okay.
Writing, about these, because they actually try and solve these cases. They'll cover true crime cases that are unsolved and try and get people to come in and figure it out, since some of the police forces, like in my book, they fall flat.
Yeah,
So
right, exactly.
Yeah.
That was-
I was going to say, I've got the book. It's on my DVR pile, my huge DVR pile of the one, what's her name, Michelle McNamara, that they made the HBO series of, her trying to find out who the Golden State Killer was.
Right.
See, that kind of, reminded me of that. Yeah.
That true crime, it's a real, in fact, I just started watching a show last night. I don't know if you guys have started watching this. It's Hulu original. Murders in the Building Only. And it's got
Is that with Steve Martin and Martin Short? I just started watching it this morning. I didn't have time to watch much of it.
but it's that same kind of thing. It's the true crime, and I love that. Now, Jadesola, where did the story idea for your book come from?
It came from a lot of different places. I mean, when I wrote it, I was on maternity leave after having my son. I have a toddler called Sam. Pretty much everyone's seen him pop up at some point if he's written with me on Zoom before. But we were just entering a pandemic, very soon after that, and I just took the time to write. And the time after childbirth is a really emotionally draining time. And he's my second child, he's not my first. So, I'd been around the block before, but it was just very draining and exhausting and isolating, in a very specific way. I wasn't near family or anything like that. And the book was really a pick-me-up. Like, I laugh when I think about it now, and I talk about in a way how self-indulgent it was, because, it has all these parties and this train that takes place on a luxury train, and you get to travel with the characters. There's a little armchair travel. I don't want to give things away, but all of these elements are there, and it was there because that's what I love and what I love to read, and it made me feel better to write it. So, and I was very fortunate in that this love story just sort of came out of it, and I just wanted the core of the book to be kindness and love, not too much angst, not too much drama. I wanted people to put it down and feel as if they just had a glass of warm milk by the fire.
I like that. I like that.
And I hope that's what came across. But for influences, I think old Hollywood was definitely an influence. One of my protagonists, her favorite movie is Sabrina, starring Audrey Hepburn, which is one of my favorites.
Oh yes, I love that.
The influences are definitely there. And Lucy, when you were talking about Agatha Christie, I was thinking about Denise's book. I'm like, maybe we should join forces and write something kind of Hitchcocky,
I would love that.
I love it.
I would love that.
I am so down for that book. I am so down for that book.
I would love it. Yeah.
Darby, I just wanted to ask, Darby, what sparked you writing that romance? Because this is your first romance, right?
Could you tell us a little bit about it too? I know it's not out yet, but
not out yet, but out soon.
Yes, tell us about it.
Yeah, February feels like tomorrow, just the way that the world works. Honestly, I started writing some version of the Shoe Diaries 10 years ago, and it's been through different variations.
That sounds
right. And there's so many things that influence it. One is that I am of the belief that most women have something in their house that defines moments in their life. So for me, it's been shoes. For some people, it might be all the jeans in your apartment, or the jewelry, the purses, the books, right? Home goods, whatever it is. But you can walk someone through those things and tell them, when I wore this, or when I bought this thing happened. So I used to have a shoe closet when I lived in Maryland. I don't anymore in New York, but that's okay. And I could walk you through various important moments in my life. just showing me the different shoes in my closet. And so that was like the first sort of defining idea that I wanted to tell this young woman's story through like the shoes that she had going on during those moments. And then another thing was I wrote a piece for the Washington Post about the perfect date dress a few years ago. And it was basically, I had this dress that I had in my closet for like 3 or 4 years. When I bought it, I said, this is the perfect date dress. And then because I put all that pressure on it, I never wore it.
Yep.
And it just hung in my closet for years because I was like, this isn't the perfect date. I don't want to waste it on that. I don't want to do this. I'm like waiting for the perfect moment. And eventually I had to say, just wear the dress. Like, just stop waiting for perfection and do the thing. And I realized I was doing the same thing just generally in my life. So I was like, this is a story to tell.
Yeah.
You know, let's talk about that time. And I think most women have this time in their lives where they've been checking off all the list of shoulds that they think that they should do. Like, oh, I should have a degree. I should have this perfect job. I should have like, you know, an envious waist to hip ratio, all of that stuff. And then you look up and you've been checking off all those shoulds and you're like, man, I've done all this stuff I'm supposed to do, but I'm not, am I happy? I don't know. Right. And so really it wasn't, you know, I say this a few times that I didn't really start off writing a romance novel. I started off just wanting to tell women's stories. And then a part of women's stories is talking about like the desire for love and how that plays in. And what I love about, you know, just all of the books that we've talked about today is that romance and love is a part of the story, but it's not something where it's like, you're just getting into the book and it's only about that. It gives me more, you know, when we talk about diversity to me is also diversity of thought. And, you know, being able to see like, oh, love plays a part in all of this, but it's not the entire story because that's not my life. You know? There's all this stuff going on. And then it's like, yeah, you know, I would like to find a partner. So
yeah, the love kind of complements her good life. You know,
exactly.
She's good without it, but with it, it complements it. That's the way I like it.
And even when you're writing a presents, which we have a very short word count in, you still have that. Yeah, you still have to write that story that talks about growth and the journey. And I do focus more on my heroine's journey because I'm a woman, but there are some books I've written where it's very much about the hero's journey because it's about a guy who's like going through life. It's not just about finding that perfect person, but it's also about finding happiness in life and where they're supposed to be. I'm going to take just a quick break and read some of the comments we're getting.
Okay.
I want to share these before we lose them. So we have Leslie Jones saying, hi, ladies. Tony Benito says, hello, Denise and friends. She also said, I was saying Samantha has guts. Leslie Jones said, great description. No wonder you are a writer. I think that was directed at Jadesola, but I'm not positive because we're on a time lag. So when I saw it come up, someone else was talking, but I feel like we're like 20 seconds behind. Like we're talking and 20 seconds later, this is going to show up. And Tony Benita said, books and hats for me. Leslie Jones says, I do that with clothes too. I guess we all know what that's referring to. Nicole Jarrett said, can relate to the added meaning to clothes. I love that. Nicole Jarrett said also, love stories that show other relationships. She loves stories that show other relationships. So that's where we're at with comments right now. And if anybody wants to ask a question, please do post it. And I will. And Leslie Jones said, yes, it was. Yay, we got it right. Okay. But yeah, if you guys have any questions and you want to post them, I'll make sure to read them out loud. And this is just fun. This is book chat. We're talking about books, about your books, upcoming books that you guys like to read. This is like, you can throw anything out you want to. I want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to kind of share their story and share like their joy in what we do.
I'd like to know of any of you, what authors kind of spark you or, you know.
Yeah. Great idea.
I think, oh, go ahead, Darby.
I was just going to say, I've said this on another chat before that the first book I read that was a romance novel written by a Black woman that I just devoured was Accidental Diva by Tia Williams. And
Okay.
I'm probably dating myself, but I read this as a freshman in college and I just could not put it down. I think I read it like 4 or 5 times. And I was like, I want to be this person that she, not that I wanted to be her, I did want to be her, but also I saw myself in her so much. I was like, oh man, I do that and I do that. And it made me want to move to Fort Greene, Brooklyn until I found out how much it costs to move there. I was like, she had rent control price renting, but it was the first time that I saw someone or read about someone who I could relate to. And it wasn't some of the like urban trope stuff. It was like, she's a Black woman walking through life, and she's obviously a Black woman and she identifies as a Black woman, but her story is not about being a Black woman. And there's not all this like oppression that comes with it. It's like, no, I'm going throughout life. I'm trying to do all this stuff that I as a woman do. And you know who I am. But it's so much more relatable. And, it's just something that I was like, I want to do that.
Like a universal story.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to look for that one. Yeah.
So I was going to say, for me, now I'm going to date myself seriously. So I always talk about how I grew up sneaking in my mother's books. So, that was Jackie Collins, that was Danielle Steele, it was Sidney Sheldon. So I've always had this love for romance, but even with those books, those women, especially, Jackie Collins is known for writing a stronger character. The love story. She was very much, because there's a documentary about her right now on Netflix.
Did you see that? That was wonderful. I saw that. Yes.
Yeah.
I started it, but haven't finished it yet.
Yes, it's very good.
So that's what I grew up on. And that's how I fell in love with storytelling and writing and wanting to, and romance. Even as a kid, I understood that. But then when Terry McMillan's books hit the shelves, like Darby's experience, that's when I lost it. I said, okay, so wait a minute. You mean I can do this too? Because not only was I loving Disappearing Acts was one of her books, and then How Stella Got a Groove Bag and Wait and Exhale, I just loved them all. But that just showed me, like, again, what Darby was saying, it wasn't about oppression. It was just about being a woman who happens to be Black, living life, having a career, being educated, and looking for love. So not only did I see myself in those characters, but I saw myself as an author, because I said, oh, well, so people are interested in hearing our stories too, because all that time the representation was not us. So seeing that was so influential to me. And that's when I boldly said, I'm going to start writing. And I, as soon as I graduated from college, I started writing my first book. And I was so determined to get something on the shelves because I saw that it was being done. And I was able to represent something that wasn't, it was blowing up at that point, but it hadn't really been seen when I was growing up. So that was one of my biggest influences.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
I think my influences are similar to yours, Denise. I read a lot of Danielle Steele, and this was in probably middle school when I was definitely not supposed to be reading them.
No.
We won't tell.
Oh man, Jane Ann Krentz and just all of them. And Terry McMillan, I think, was my first foray into Black fiction, I would say with romantic elements, because I wouldn't call Terry McMillan's story straight romance, but there was this very particular line that I read when I was in, I would say, I think high school, Kamani True.
Yeah.
Not Kamani, but Kamani True.
Right.
And those were focused on teenagers and I would say what they would call now young adult, just entering college. And they were amazing. They were so good. You had these casts of Black characters from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, which is really important, different walks of life, and they were interacting in this very Sweet Valley High-ish way. And before that, nothing like that really existed.
No.
Wow.
For Black teenage girls. So that was a series that I loved. Walter Dean Myers also created a Black teen series that I used to read voraciously. So I think that was my sort of foray into contemporary romance. Of course, alongside Harlequin Presents, which, I think everyone has a story with the mom or the auntie or the babysitter that has
My grandmother still has a ton of Harlequin books on.
I love it.
Exactly. And it's so escapist. And even as a writer, and Denise, you kind of touched on this as well, just being able to learn from the writers that you read. Like if I focus only on Harlequin Presents, right? For example, Danny Collins has taught me so much about forming an intricate plot where a lot of things happen while still managing to focus on those two central characters.
Yeah.
Lucy, I'm going to call you out on the chat. Your books have taught me so much about just emotional development and making a hero vulnerable without losing that strength that is so important to the Presents reader. And you know, Jackie Ashton is another one that I learned so much about writing. She just goes for it. Like she doesn't care. I'm like, I respect you. You know, go right. She just goes for it, plot wise, hero wise, whatever it is. So reading as a writer teaches you as you go along. And I always say I have so many writers as mentors who have never spoken to me and who I've never met, but I've followed their careers so closely and read so many of their books. I almost feel like they're by my side teaching me as I learn this craft.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
You know, it's interesting because I remember being a young new author, okay, and this was a while ago because my first book came out
Not too long ago.
You've been writing a little longer than I have,
but I wrote a blog post a long time ago on my old blog, and it was the writers who have mentored me, and I just had this whole list of writers that I read, and I had learned story structure from Lynn Graham, and I had learned a certain type of emotional art from Debbie May Cumber, and I had learned from Laurie Foster about writing characters that were larger than life and how they responded to the tough things in life. I mean, there was one of her first books I read, Say No to Joe, years ago. It made me want to be a better parent. And I'm just like, I want, and that was a romance, but I was like, oh man, I want to be the best I can be with my own teenagers, with my own kids. And so, yeah, I love listening to you guys, and I love hearing this because I had such a similar journey in that you find people and the authors that write something that you can identify with. And I know that when I was very young, I mean, my dad was a mess. Okay. And I'm very open about the fact that my childhood was a bit, dicey. And, when I read romances, I saw a hero that was not my dad, who was very different. And I had this idea in my head that if people wrote it, they knew it. Like they had to know it from someone. Right. And so I had this picture, then I had developed a picture of the kind of man I wanted to marry. And sure, there were like some guys around me. It wasn't like I didn't have any men around me that were good guys, but romance is what really cemented it in my head that I could have this. And I did. I married a man who's amazing. And we've been married I don't know, 1988. I can't remember now. It's been a long time.
33 years, I think.
There you go.
I was born in 88. So
there you go. And, I think romance can change lives. I have changed some of my most basic ideas about life because of books I've read, and most of them romance. Other books don't usually have enough of a visceral impact on me to change my viewpoint, to change like how I see a particular topic. But romance has definitely done that. I have grown, I have expanded outside of the little tiny kind of insular person I was as a young person to become a much broader vision person, I hope. So yeah, I mean, I love listening to you guys. I'm like, this is awesome because I get this. This is how I go.
I think, Lucy, to what you're saying, I think the great thing that I love about, whether I'm reading contemporary or traditional romances, you get to get that vulnerability that you don't always have in a lot of books. And then that just inspires me to be more vulnerable in my own life. And then you find that on the page as well when you're writing, right? So it all sort of becomes like a circular kind of thing. The more I read about other people being vulnerable, then I'm more comfortable doing it. And then I'm more comfortable putting it in my books as well. And hopefully inspiring others to do the same. Yeah.
Like that. Okay, I'm going to read a couple more comments, guys. I hate that I'm the one doing all this chatting. Sorry. Aaliyah said Danny Collins is the best, and I totally agree. I love her writing.
Yes, I love
Leslie Jones says it truly can, Lucy. Thank you. And Nicole Jarrett said it does expand you. Love that. Oh, yes, it does. And Cheryl Allen said she does. I'm not sure what she does. She meant, but it's okay because we love this affirmation. And that's really the awesome thing. Susan Wilson says, hi from GB, looking forward to reading your books. Yay.
Yay.
I mean, I'm excited, y'all, because your books are coming out and you're at that place. You're all debuting in something new, which I know, Denise, you've been writing a long time like me, but that new debut is exciting.
It is exciting.
On a new kind of project or place, it's like, yes,
yes,
you're going someplace new. And I'm excited for your next book. I will definitely be buying it. I want to see what the next one does. And the serial killer you're talking about, we're going to have to see about that one.
Well, and the next one you said, did you say something about Bayou?
Carrie, I'm afraid to talk about it with you now because Bayou Christmas Disappearance is the name, and this character is out of control with some of the decisions that she makes. I'm forewarning you.
Okay.
I'm forewarning you.
I'll turn my mothering off. That's right.
All I'll say, so she is a forensic investigator.
Ooh.
And she's nosy, and she likes to go against the grain and do things she shouldn't necessarily do. So you might find her on a hiking trail alone, trying to investigate a crime scene she has no business being at.
I love it.
Carrie, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So that's what that one is. Yeah, so it's Bayou Christmas Disappearance. That one comes out November 1st.
Is that in New Orleans or around New Orleans?
It's a small town in Louisiana that I made up. So it's a fictitious town, but it's a small college town, and it's where the investigator went to college, and her best friend, who's from a very affluent family, goes missing. So she's there as you know what? Wait a minute. Am I getting my stories? I'm getting my stories.
Oh, I've done
it. Let's start over.
No, I didn't.
I do have a forensic investigator who gets beside herself, but that's in the heart-shaped murders. Let's go.
Oh, okay. That's a serial killer. Okay.
Yes. Bayou Christmas Disappearance is about an investigative journalist. See, I'm doing
okay.
So we have, but she still does things she should not do as well.
Okay.
I think we have a running theme here.
We have everything out of control. It works.
You all know who I am as a person now. So yes. Okay.
You got that. You got a theme. Leslie just said, I just one-clicked Jadesola and Denise's books. Darby awaiting yours. Thank you. That's really great.
Thank you.
Before I forget, just Jadesola, Darby, Denise, will you please post in the comments after everything's over? You can just come back in anytime to YouTube, but hopefully the next 24 hours, and post in the comments like a link to your upcoming book, your current book, your website, whatever you want to link to, but just so that the readers who are watching this later will get a chance to kind of see your stuff, and you can let them know where to find it easily. If you want to post a link to your social media things, that's totally cool, because you can make your comment as long as you want. I'm just
whatever you want in it. Yeah,
that's great. Let people know who you are and where to find you. So just to let you know that. And oh my goodness,
I'm just wondering how you ladies feel about being published with Harlequin, because to me, Harlequin was always the gold ring. I mean, that to me spoke romance, you know, and
for me, it is just a dream come true. It's a dream come true. I started off with Simon and Schuster, which was a big deal for me, but even back then, Harlequin was always the pinnacle. It's where you want it to be. You know what? And I appreciate the fact that Harlequin has a good eye for the longevity of an author. They will nurture your career in a way that a lot of other publishers won't. So they want to see you continue to succeed. They want to see you keep going. So they encourage you to keep writing. And that's what I love about them. So my experience has been phenomenal. And, but yeah, it has just been a dream come true. So exciting for me.
I love that.
Yeah, for me, Harlequin means romance. Yeah.
How about you, Darby? How was it like publishing with Harlequin? You said you didn't know you were writing a romance. Did it feel good though to like, do you like the Harlequin thing? Or, I mean, obviously you say yes, I don't know.
Yeah. I do. Yeah, it's funny because when my agent connected me with Gail, my editor at Harlequin that Carrie and I share, I was like, but I don't know if this is a romance book. And then I talked to Gail and she was just so excited. She made me more excited about my book than I was. And so that's what I love about Harlequin so far is that, the excitement and the support has just been completely there. And as I was listening to Gail, I'm like, you know what? This is a romance book. Take me on. I'll do this. So yeah, I love it. I love it completely.
I remember my agent, she mentored me for a while and then she signed me. And then I had reached a kind of a low point and she's like, well, no, we'll just do some more of this and we'll get you, they would be good for special edition. And I was like, oh my God, you mean Harlequin? And she's like, sure. And so then it was like, okay, I'll do whatever you say.
Jadesola, how is it for you?
I still can't believe it. Like, I still feel like it's a dream sometimes, honestly, because I always looked, especially at Harlequin Presents, which has been around for such a long time. Like, Arena Press is new and fresh and hot and, in the moment. And they have many, 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 many wonderful decades ahead of them. They're producing fantastic titles. But Harlequin Presents, like, it's something that I can remember women in my family generations back reading. So, and I also got my book in through a pitch event. So I actually entered literally maybe in the last 2 minutes. Just as a might as well try. I didn't even until the day I sent in those first 3 chapters and they were requested. I thought it was a joke. I'm like, Harlequin Presents, like,
wow, yeah.
And then when they bought it, I was just in a state of utter disbelief. And I'm just finishing final edits on my 3rd book now. So just to be in the same company as these authors that I've read for so many years, I just feel so fortunate. And it's incredible to get to relate to Harlequin authors as writers and as people too. And, the relationships that I've formed and the friends that I've made. I think the pandemic has been really good for that because pre-pandemic, not everyone could always travel and get to all the conferences and meet in person. But the virtual nature of the world now is,
I love it. Yeah.
Because it's such a negative word, but is encouraging us to interact in ways that are so much more inclusive, but towards the new authors coming into.
I agree. I hope that we keep this going. I hope that as travel becomes, like, as much as I love travel and I'd like to go to a conference here or there, I hope we keep a lot of this. I know Carrie and I will keep up book chat, but I'd like to see some more of the virtual conferences because I do think they're more inclusive, and I think that we have to remove some of this cost of travel if we want all authors to have that access to each other, to the learnings, to readers. We need to make this possible, and that's kind of our job. It's our job to stop it and say, hey, well, how can I make this better? How can I make the world a better place?
I know. Well, I still have to pinch myself, Lucy, that I've been reading your books for so long, and it's like I'm doing book chat with Lucy.
Guys are so, it's kind of fun to be the old lady because
well, I'm older than you, but you're more experienced.
Know, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but when we first started chatting, and I'm like, so I have to warn you, Carrie, that I am mom everybody. And I don't change you, but if you're like older than me, younger than me, doesn't really matter. I just have this real mom vibe going on. She's like, I can deal with you. And she does. She deals with me really well. So let me look. Tony Bonita said, I pre-ordered Denise and Darby book, one-click Jadesola book. Yahoo! Nicole,
thank you,
said,
Tony.
hear about the community among authors, and it is. I feel really, really blessed. I think that we have a community we haven't it is unique and it's different. Lists and like authors where we would chat. That's one thing, but this kind of thing, it's really special. And, you know, we have our, we do write-ins where we get together and write and stay kind of focused on our work. And I love it. I think
Yeah,
it's
I need
really-
that, you know,
Yeah.
that
the connectivity.
the
And
connectivity, yeah.
You know, during our last chat, Darby said that like once you get to know your author friends, they really become your friends, and you kind of take everyone in and becomes a family. And that is so true. Jadesola and I mean, I consider her a sister. We're all best friends now. You all might not know, you'll be at my wedding. You fight over the maid and matron of honor positions, but you'll be in the wedding. So, you know, I think this is fantastic.
And it's nice to be friends with authors, because then you realize you're not going through certain things all alone.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, you mean you felt that too? I'm not weird, you know?
for sure.
Especially during the pandemic. I think a lot of us have gone through burnout. We've just had a hard time, and there's been a lot of exchange about moving. Jadesola and I have both been moving, and so there's just been a lot of talk about the pressures that you're under trying to, you know, meet these deadlines. And yeah, it looks perfect when you look on social media and you see, oh, she's got this coming out. That they don't know what happened behind the scenes with you trying to get those projects out.
Even when you read a book, somebody's book, and it's already published, you got to realize that it didn't start out like that. That probably wasn't what she turned in. You know?
Right.
That was
right.
Yeah.
I wanted to atone. Nicole Jarrett said, great to hear about the community of authors. Tony Benita said, virtual is wonderful, but there's nothing like the actual event to get that book autographed, or taking a picture with an author. And those events are so special. I don't want to give those up. I just want to have more, I guess. I just want to have these opportunities for readers and for authors. And there are things that we can do as authors to make virtual events for readers really positive. We can do book plates that we can send to you for your books. So like if you like, I'm happy to do that always for, you know, readers. And there are a lot of things that we can do that can make it more equitable for readers coming too, because there's a lot of readers that can't afford to do the travel and yet want to get the signed books with technology, I bet there's a way we can figure out how to do an author like picture with your favorite author. Why can't we do it? Like, I just think, I'm not saying give up the events. I say, let's do both. Because why not? We don't have to give up one in order to have the other. That's not, you know, that's kind of, I know that there's people that would like to convince us that we have to only have, but I know it's not true. So we're going to just, you know, fight the good fight for the fun for everyone, because my readers matter to me. Whoever they are, they matter to me. They read my books, and them reading my books is what gives my story longevity.
Yeah.
You know, I may write a story. I wrote stories that were published in 2003 that are still being read today by new readers, and you still get readers that will write you and say, this touched me for this or this, or you'll just hear about it in like some roundabout way. And that matters. Like these books that maybe are only on the shelf in a bookstore for 2 weeks to 4 weeks, depending on.
Sometimes, you know,
right? But they exist for decades, and they can continue to touch readers, and that it matters. It's there's a power to our words. Every one of our words counts. So what we write matters. How we write it matters. Anyway, well, I suppose we should wind this thing. We're going to wound it down. Is there any one last thing you all want to say before we go?
Well, I'll just say thank you for having me. And I appreciate everyone who has read Cold Case True Crime, including my other books as well. But with that being the Harlequin debut, I'm so excited to have that story out. And I hope you all will continue to read what I put, even though I don't remember what anything is about. They're all
That's okay.
come out. Harlequin knows what they're about, so they'll be out.
I have to stop and take a book off the shelf. What was that character's last name?
All the time. So, but I appreciate the support, and it means the world to me. And I'm just happy to be a part of the Harlequin family, and just so grateful. So, thank you to the readers and to you all for your support.
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo that. You know, even just meeting you guys in the past week or two has been amazing. I'm like, we are friends now. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, I'm just so excited. I feel like I'm in that, I've never been pregnant, but it's like that my baby's about to come out.
It's very exciting. Yes.
My cover is coming soon. So just all of those new things that I am, just really thrilled that are coming. And it's all the stuff that I've been wanting and praying and thinking about since I was like a 6-year-old making up my own book sitting next to my dad. So all of this is coming to fruition for me. And I couldn't be, more thankful than to be on this journey with people who've done it already and are, not afraid to lift someone up as they shine. We talked about this before, I think, Denise and Lucy, about, I believe that you don't have to compete.
No. What is that? Rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly. That, we are not competing sons here. We are, as you shine, I shine. And so I'm so excited to meet women who also think that way.
I think that's about romance authors too. That romance authors are very, supportive. Yeah.
And another thing, just jumping off of what you said, Darby, that I love and I appreciate is Harlequin's commitment to diverse stories and, diversity of thought, diversity of ability, diversity of background, diversity of ethnicity. And, it's so much more nuanced than, just skin color. So, that has some really, really amazing books have come out in recent years and are still coming out. And that's something that I love to see. I mean, we all talked about what a revelation it was to be able to pick up a book and look at characters that we recognize, whether they were like us or not, but we recognized culturally and, experience-wise and everything. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to bring some of that to the stories that I write for Harlequin and the support that I've received both at Carina Press and at Harlequin Presents.
I love
so
that.
That's a huge thing for me. And Darby, I cannot wait for your book.
Me either. Let me just read the last.
They're so important, and there's so many different types of romance other than the type between your two main characters who are going to end up as partners in the end. There's something very special and very intense about romance between female friends, romance between parents and children. And I think that part of Harlequin's success with their various lines is that they capture that really beautifully.
For sure.
Depending on the line. So.
Yeah. And I think writing is, I don't know, for me, it was something that nobody ever told me, well, you're too old to start now. I talk about dating myself. I did a book signing at Barnes and Noble for my debut book on my 62nd birthday. It's like, hey, I'm not, even one of my sons says, well, you just proved that you're never too old to go for your dream.
I love that.
So if there's anybody out there who's worried about, oh, I'm too old to do this. No, you're not. Just do it. I do have to ask my 30-year-old sons, like, now, who would you be listening to or what would you be doing? Because, So I do ask them. And I remember I asked one of my sons something, what would my hero be listening to? And he said, well, is he a hipster or a bro? And I'm like,
you're like, what is that?
I'm like, I don't know. I don't think he's a hipster, so I guess he's a bro. I don't know.
That is so great. That is so great. I'm going to read the last two comments before we close off. Tony said, ladies, continue to write. I will continue to read. Thank you for the amazing stories. And Candace McMiller said the same.
Oh, that's
and Candace also said McCuller. And Candace also said, looking so forward to reading Darby. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, authors. Thank you, readers who watch this later or watching it now. Thank you guys so much. I just had a great morning. I love this, y'all. Rock. This was awesome. And I am going to